Hey everybody, I'm Jill Redfern and welcome to Third Shift Movement Shop, home of literal technique. This tutorial is about the basics of using the Pectoralis Majors as vertebrae stabilizers in our dance technique. The Pec Majors are the last of the 7 muscles central to our alignment in literal technique. That means they stabilize, align, and move the 33 vertebrae, the skull, the ribcage barrel, and the pelvic barrel. Those are the central bones. In a lot of ways, using the Pec Majors as a vertebrae stabilizer boils down to balancing the contraction of them in such a way that they don't move the ribcage barrel. The Pec Majors have the ability to move the ribcage barrel, and that's how they destabilize situations. So if you think about it, when you inhale, the ribcage barrel moves. If you overzealously contract the Pec Majors, round your shoulders and you can feel the rib cage moves. It almost collapses in on itself. When the rib cage moves, the thoracic vertebrae are moving. That's why the rib cage is moving, because they directly get their alignment from the thoracic vertebrae. So we need to move into our minds into a situation where we think of the vertebrae first and the rib cage barrel second. The rib cage barrel is moving as a consequence of something. The Pec Majors contraction is moving the vertebrae, so we need to find a way to balance that contraction so that doesn't happen, and that's how they become a stabilizer. When they are a stabilizer, they stabilize what's called the chest wall, which is includes the heart, the lungs, vital organs that need protection, so they're behind or inside the ribcage barrel. The bones of the chest wall are the ribcage barrel and the thoracic vertebrae. So if the Pec Majors are a stabilizer of the chest wall and they can move the ribcage barrel, that's our challenge. We have to figure out how to balance their contraction. The Pec Majors, like the lats, connect to the external obliques, which I think is fascinating. The obliques, you may remember, the lats and the external obliques interlock at the surfaces of ribs 9 through 12. The Pec Majors originate from the aponeurosis of the external obliques, which comes in about here. So we've got a real connection between the Pec Majors and the externals and the lats and the externals. And in both situations, the result of the contraction of the muscle is to bring the rib cage down into alignment, which means stabilizing the thoracic vertebrae. So I want to, in order to try to feel the sensations of these 3 muscles together, I want to piggyback on the exercise that I did in the basics of the lats tutorial. But let's just do a quick summary of where the Pec Majors are attaching to the bones, so that when you contract them, you understand what bones you have the potential to move. They originate up here at this third of the collarbone closest to the sternum. They originate on the sternum and of all the way down here, and they originate at the costal cartilage of ribs 1 through 6. So here, this cartilage, and they originate here. So you can see it's a real central down the center of the ribcage barrel, and here it's like a big letter I. So when you're talking about overzealous contraction or movement of the ribcage barrel, you're talking about muscle that is contracting here in a central way such that it's moving the thoracic vertebrae. So when we do this exercise that I'm going to piggyback on, think about the contraction of the Pec Majors in that central part of the chest, while you're thinking about the contraction of the lats and the obliques on the interlocking on the sides of the body. So let's get skeleton moved over here. What we're going to do, I'm going to find a parallel first position. I'm going to turn to the side so you can see alignment and what happens. So we want to start by finding our anatomical curves, and that means we have no flexion or extension at the thoracolumbar joint and no flexion or extension at the lumbosacral joint. So we can find anatomical curves in the 33 vertebrae. Bring your arms up on a high diagonal and slightly bend your elbows. We're going to act like we have a bar here that we can wrap our hands around, and the exercise is going to involve bringing this bar down to shoulder height while we contract these three muscles. So you're going to have sensation where the interlock happens. You're going to have sensation where the origination happens at the aponeurosis. You're going to have a stable feeling in this part because the lats are back there and they're on the ribs there. So we've got multiple places that are basically, remember, what we're trying to do is prevent the rib cage barrel from moving. That's how we're going to stabilize the vertebrae. Okay, here we go. Wrap your hands around the bar and inhale and exhale. So, do your checklist. I'm feeling it on the sides of the ribs. I'm feeling it above the lumbar, below the sternum. I feel an open, a width across, because we don't want overzealous contraction that's going to move the rib cage barrel in any way. Bring your hands down to your sides and keep the contraction. Check your anatomical curves. If you think you've lost any of your alignment, correct it at the vertebrae. So when we're in a situation where we want to stabilize the movement of the rib cage barrel, the thoracic vertebrae, we should feel these sensations in a 360-degree way around this section of the body. Notice if your Pec Majors are not too contracted, if they're balanced, you should feel a real ability and fluidity in the arms. Keep your contraction. I'm just going to turn toward you now. So here we are. Move the arms and keep a wide Pec Major on Pec Majors. Open. Rib cage barrel is dropped down. It's going to feel like it's dropped into place. The anatomical curves, you should feel them in your body. There's a real fluidity with the arms because I am not over-contracted, I'm balanced. All right, in your class this week, do a visualization on the floor before your class starts. If you don't know the anatomy of these three muscles, if it's not clear to you, check out those tutorials. You will need to know where these muscles are in your body in order to use them to help stabilize your body while you're dancing. Visualize the thoracic vertebrae and the rib cage barrel. Visualize the Pec Majors. Visualize the lats. And visualize the external obliques. This group of three, see them contracted and see the anatomical curves in the 33 vertebrae. When you get into your class, I think probably one of the best ways you can practice using these three muscles together is whenever you do any kind of port-de-bras. It's really, there's so much possibility of moving the rib cage during port-de-bras. And there may be times when we want to move the rib cage, but the exercise will be to keep the vertebrae stable, keep them in their anatomical curves. That's the goal anytime you're using the arms in your class, whenever you can, choreography allowing. Okay, I'll see you next week.